So hello and welcome to another edition of Isolation Interviews for Hospital Radio and my YouTube channel. And I'm very excited that my guest today is the fantastic Adil Ray. Thank you so much for giving up your time to talk to me.
Pleasure. It was worth it just to hear you say fantastic Adil Ray. That's it. It's great. Brilliant.
Now, we must talk about the weird situation that we find ourselves in at the moment. I mean, first of all, how was early lockdown for you? How did you find just, adapting to a new way of life?
Well, it's funny actually. I mean, at the time, it was surreal. I mean, I remember having friends over for dinner just a week before, and we were talking about this potential lockdown. And I think even then, I don't think you quite believed what it was going to be. It was like, well, there's going to be this lockdown. And it's only when you're in it, you realise, oh my God, that's it. We are in some weird movie. But then looking back on it, and I know this might not be a commonly held view, but I look back and go, there was an element of all of that lockdown, of being at home, that I kind of enjoyed some of it. I think I managed to press a button that just said, right, it's time to think about you. And you had to just do the basics of I learned to cook, I can cook, but I learned to cook a few more things, or I just pottered around in my garden a little bit if I've not done before, and just went running, looked after myself. And I think, in that sense, I kind of used it as a time to realign, But of course, for some people, it's been awful. It's been really tough for those people that have lost loved ones, and or are still ill because of it, or found it really difficult to cope with the loneliness. I mean, I kept thinking of people who lived in flats and apartments. I'm just to have a garden. I don't have a very big garden. It's, a bit of lawn and a shed at the back. But only 2 years ago, I was living in an apartment, and I feel, God, I'm so glad I moved somewhere with a garden, just because we had some decent weather, didn't we, actually? And it was quite nice to step out. So I'd say, on the whole, a good chance to realign and to reassess and just to look after yourself a little bit, but also to be very grateful and be thinking of others, which I think, until you stop in life, often you don't do that.
I mean, as I say, we are, very lucky that we've got things like, TV. We've got, everyone's probably got some form of Sky or Netflix or one of those formats. Music, books, there's so much to keep us occupied. So I think we're lucky in the sense that we've got stuff like that to keep us, entertained. But then at the same time, people who are having to go out day in, day out, for example, the NHS, what an amazing service they are, who are going out day after day, don't know when they're going to get a break next, and are, on the front line.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, I remember when, the postman would come, and I remember just staring at the postman, just going, as he walked off, I thought, this guy carries on. He carries on with his job, and clapping for the nurses, and seeing care workers in a different light. I think we've got an elderly couple who live a few doors down from me. So clearly the carers have been coming as long as I've lived here, but I've only just noticed them. You start noticing those things, and you just go, yeah, I might be at home baking banana bread, or, wondering when my, tulips are going to start blooming in the garden. That lady there, or that man there, they're carrying on. They're keeping the world going. And it was quite something to see, really. And you realise, okay, those people, and what we now know are often people on the front line. Well, always people on the front line, the key workers, come from some of the most poorest elements of our community, and the most vulnerable, and whether vulnerable medically or vulnerable financially, and just in their way of life. So we owe so much to them. And I remember thinking at the time, in fact, I bought this book. I went and bought this book because I was so passionate about all of this. I haven't started reading it yet, and this is probably proves my point. But Richard Wilkinson and Kate Pickett, The Inner Level, right? And it talks about how to generate more equal societies, which in self reduces stress, restores sanity, improves everyone's well-being. Right? Because it made me realise what is the pandemic. That I remember people saying, "Oh, it's a leveler." The pandemic, it's not a leveler. It's not been a leveler. It hasn't been a leveler. It's shown that those from the weakest elements of our society suffer the most. So I sort of bought that book and thought, well, can I read that? But what have I done? I've not read it. It's been lying there. And I hate this about human nature. We get very, virtuous and very passionate. Oh, we're going to do, but then we can very easily slip it back into our lives again, which I think I've done a little bit. So that doing this interview has just reminded me I need to get back on that. But I think you think that this is going to make us change the way we hopefully think about frontline staff, key workers, disadvantaged communities, ethnic minority communities, people who work in hospitals, people who have got long-term illnesses. You take it for granted that, oh, well, yeah, they've got a long-term illness. Oh, okay, they can't come out. Yeah, but what can we do for them? Hopefully it's made us all think a little bit.
And do you think going forward that it will change our attitudes towards, the NHS and I think a lot of people appreciate them a lot more now, but do you think going forward we'll carry on with it?
Well, you'd like to think so. I mean, there was talk, wasn't there, at one point, there was some absurd, during the election, some absurd theory that the NHS was under threat and that with Trump coming in and, that there was going to be some, you'd think now that is going to be a very tough argument to make. So, you'd hope that this has protected the NHS and given it even more value and proven to us that we need to be giving it even more support, and long may that continue.
Now, one of the things you've been doing throughout lockdown was obviously, still able to get out to work and present on Good Morning Britain. So, I mean, for you, was it quite nice to know you could still get out and still kind of help to inform the nation?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't there. I did some at the very beginning of lockdown, and then normally Piers Morgan takes time off. He normally takes the summer off, because I think he couldn't travel, and B, because of the news story itself. I think quite rightly he wanted to be around for that. So he did quite a bit of the summer, and then I stepped in at sort of July, early middle of July, and I absolutely loved it because at times like this, our jobs become even more important. On television, not only the pure fact that you're informing people and giving people the latest updated information, and let's face it, we needed lots of people to tell us that because there's been so much confusion as to about what you can and can't do and what certain rules and laws actually mean, etc. But not only were we about informing people on that kind of information, but I'm a firm believer in light entertainment at times like this, and we have to find light in the darkness. And I think Good Morning Britain does that really well. It really does. And I am biased, but I've spent a lot of time at the BBC, and most of my career was at the BBC. But I think ITV are known for getting great journalism across, great news across, but with a lightness of touch and having a real connection to people and human stories to be first and foremost. And I think, to be part of that was a real privilege at quite a difficult time.
And I mean, you get to work with some amazing people. I mean, obviously Ranvir Singh, Charlotte Hawkins, and of course the comeback of the amazing Kate Garraway, who's a ray of light at the moment, and obviously been through so much. So it must be nice to work with such amazing people.
It is. They are, beautiful women, beautiful human beings. They really are nice people to work with, and all the crew. And I have to mention all the crew. And a lot of people made that show happen, and it's fantastic. But Kate was, exceptional, I thought, and I think when we all heard that she wanted to come back, she wanted to come and be on air, it was just a real inspiring moment because, she's doing it for Derek, she's doing it for her children, doing it for herself. It gives her something to focus on. It gives her hope that she hasn't given up on life, and Derek can hopefully feel that and see that. So, I think, and it's a great, all we are doing, aren't we, as people, without being too philosophical, but I think all we are doing as human beings on this earth is learning from each other all the time and teaching each other. No matter what cards we are dealt with, that's all we ever do, and that's really what we should be doing. So for Kate, in her most difficult and challenging of times, to take to the airwaves that time in the morning, look great, be full of energy, and just be honest and speak from the heart. You're saying these things that even if one person had taken an element of positivity out of that would have been a great thing. But I imagine millions did. You know, I imagine so many people, because it was that moment. Kate wasn't alone. There was so many people in that position, either had lost loved ones, or loved ones were suffering, or they were suffering as a direct or indirect consequence of the pandemic, or anything else for that matter, would have been totally inspired by her. So it was a real honour to be alongside her at that time, I think.
And we must also briefly mention Ranvir, who's just been confirmed for Strictly. I mean, first of all, how do you think she would do? And also, do you think you would ever do it yourself?
Well, I'll tell you what, with Ranvir, she's been saying the last few days, she's been saying, oh, I'm not very good. Don't worry about it. When people say that, when then people go, oh, I'm not very good, you know, they're going to turn out to be, you know, like Fred Astaire, aren't they? You know. But no, she's incredible. She's such a lovely person. She's going to bring so much joy to that show, first and foremost. Everyone's going to absolutely love her, which is brilliant. The funny story about this is that for some reason there was a rumour about me doing it. I don't know whether I'd mentioned it somewhere or in passing as a joke or something. So a rumour had appeared in the Radio Times. I think Hello covered it, and so I messaged Ranvir about 3 weeks ago when we were both covering the show, and I said, I think it'd be a real good wind-up for me to talk about Strictly, you know. And we had one of the dancers on. She goes, yeah, it's a really good idea. Yeah, we'll do that. And I went, you've been asked, haven't you? And she just sort of didn't reply or pleaded ignorance. I didn't think anything of it. She knew then. She knew she was doing it. She made me go on air, pretend to do the wind-up. But her, I mean, don't play poker with Ranvir. That's all I've got to say. She was brilliant. So hats off to her. So that makes me feel like she can hide things from us. So I reckon she can have she knows how to move her feet. And anybody who's British Asian will know, that dancing is just, I mean, anything good happens in life, there's a dance to go with it in our culture. So weddings, birthdays, oh my God, you know, they can't help but dance. So she'll be able to move her hips. And I really hope they give her, you know, and I know it's a little bit cliche or whatever, but I really hope they give her a big Bollywood number, because I think it'll be fantastic. So, yeah, fingers crossed for her.
Now, one character who we haven't heard from for a while is, of course, Citizen Khan. I mean, how do you think he would have coped with lockdown? How do you think he would have been getting on?
Well, I think, I mean, as the BBC realised very early on when they played that little clip, that, you know, he was prepared for this. I mean, he stacks up on toilet roll. So he stacks up on toilet roll every Friday. I mean, he lives with 3 women, for God's sake. So he knows he's got to stack up the toilet roll. So I don't think he would have had any troubles at all with that. He'd know exactly where all the bargains are, where to get the bulk buying from. You know, and he just would have sat at home and watched repeats of the 1992 cricket final when Pakistan beat England. He'll just play that every day. You know, he'd be absolutely fine with it. You know, he'd be slightly unlucky if the mother-in-law happened to be around during lockdown. I think he'll be looking at ways of sort of self-isolating her in the attic or something if he could get away with it. But yeah, I mean, God, it would have been great to write an episode, you know, around isolation for the Khans. I think it falls straight into that sort of territory, really. Yeah.
Do you think we'll ever see any more from Citizen Khan in the future?
Yeah, I think we will. And we've been having sort of discussions with the BBC as to what we can do with it and when is the right time. And, you know, I also want to try and do a few other things. So sort of just weighing up best use of time, really. And I think we've worked out, as time has flown by, 2022 will be 10 years since the first episode.
Wow.
You know, which is just a year after next. And a year goes so quickly these days. And also, it's the Birmingham Commonwealth Games in Birmingham. So we think there might be something around there. So I think we'll at least do a special. We'll do a one-off special in that year. See how that goes, and then take it from there, really. But we're still having conversations about. In fact, I've got a meeting next week about the Citizen Khan film. We tried to get one away a couple of years ago, and then it just wasn't possible. We couldn't get the team together. But you know, we think now we might have another chance at it. So we're going to have a little chat to a couple of film companies and see whether we can get a film going. So I think that'll be fun.
That sounds very exciting. Now, we must also talk about Ackley Bridge, which is another project which you've been a part of. Obviously, running for 3 series now, I believe it is.
Yeah.
You know, working with some amazing talent, Joe Joyner, Sunetra Sarkar, you know, many fantastic people. I mean, for you, what's it like working on that show?
It was brilliant. You know, it's my first drama, having come out of doing Citizen Khan, and you know, and to work with Joe, was a real. A lot of my scenes were with Jo, and she's just brilliant, you know. And she's got so much experience behind her, soaps and drama, and I just try to keep up with her really, and just learn from her all the time. Real consummate professional, and also good fun to work with. And the same with Sinatra and Paul Nichols and Liz White, who's just an extraordinary actress. But actually, and I know they won't mind me saying this, but the real stars of that show are the kids. I mean, they are just phenomenal. And some of them have never acted before. A lot of them have never acted before. A lot of them were found sort of, you know, guerrilla casting on the street by the director, you know, and some of the performances they put in, I mean, it's just unreal. So in many ways, we were just learning from them as well and playing off their energy. And you felt like you were the teacher. You felt like you were sort of having to keep up with them a little bit as they sort of run riot across the school. So it was great fun. And you know, I went to uni in Huddersfield in West Yorkshire, so I had a lot of sort of love for that part of the world. And my God, it was cold. It was freezing. We always filmed in sort of winter, but you know, we were up in Halifax, up on the hills, up the moors, and my gosh, it can get really cold when you're out filming there. But a really nice place to be, and you know, people really welcoming. So yeah, it was a real privilege. I think a really important show. You know, I think it got diversity right, just brilliantly right, really. In a diversity of race and ethnicity, but gender, sexuality, and just diversity of stories that you wouldn't imagine from certain characters. And I think that was the real magic about it. Some great writing, right?
And it also is a great show because it shows that people from all walks of life can, you know, get on and be friends. And, you know, we don't need to argue. We don't need to, you know, bicker about stupid things. You know, we can all work together and be as one, really.
Yeah, exactly. But, you know, there will be arguments and there will be things like that. But the end result is that we're like you said, we're all in it together. And I think that's a really good message. Yeah.
Now, I just want to say it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I could continue talking for hours. But before we go, is there any messages you'd like to give to anyone who is listening in hospital at the moment?
Yeah, just that, you know, for all of you, you know, I just think that, you know, I think if anything, the last few months has taught us all that that we should all be very grateful for everything we have, and think of those people that are, you know, in less fortunate positions. And for those of you that are, I just continue to have hope, because you don't know what's around the corner. You don't know what's possible. Have hope and know that so many of us, even those of us that you don't know or we don't know you, we are thinking of you, thinking of every single, I certainly do, think of every single person in hospitals, patients and staff, and you know, how much you're thought about and cared for and loved. And we wish you all the very best of health, and we hope that you're out of there and seeing family very, very soon. Thinking of you.
Thank you so much, Adil. It's been an absolute pleasure. Of course, keep safe, and thanks again for your time.
Thanks very much, Matthew. Thank you.